Rob, this does not look like woodworking. What exactly is going on here?
We're doing non-woodworking so that we can do woodworking. This sitting in front of me here is the makings of our drying kiln. And the reason we need that is because before there was good glue, there was either no glue or hide glue, which doesn't hold very strong. And especially these backwoods chair makers that popularize these chairs, they may not have even have had hide glue. So theoretically, these chairs can be built without glue. And
we're going to use glue.
We're going to use glue.
We're totally going to use glue.
But if anybody out there wants a challenge and wants to shoot a video of making this chair with no glue, that would be impressive. What they would do is these are the rungs and these are the posts, front posts, back posts.
And the horizontals are the rungs.
Right. So these are the rungs, these are the side rungs, back rungs, and front rungs. And you can see that these three sets of rungs are the same size, and the front ones are longer so that the chair splays out like this, makes it nice and wide in the front for your legs and nice and small in the back for your butt. But the way that these backwoods chair makers got around their glue problem is, as you saw us riving out and then draw knifing these posts, these front posts, they're really wet, as you can probably tell from the shavings that are coming off. And later on, we're going to show you how to do the rungs. Same principle, we rove them out of green timber and then we draw knife them green. But what we're going to do is we're going to dry out these rungs to the point that they're what some people call bone dry. So we're going to dry them drier than ambient temperature, or ambient moisture content, I should say. And then what's going to happen is, this is, again, it's a simple mortise and tenon joint. So we're going to make a round tenon on the end of this rung, and it fits into a round hole mortise in the post. So this is green, this is bone dry. When we drive this rung into this post, the post, because it's green, over time is going to shrink down onto the dry tenon, and it's going to tighten up as it ages. And then you theoretically shouldn't need any glue.
Now, how did the old boys out in the woods dry out those rungs so they were ready for assembly with no glue?
So a couple different ways. I've seen people do it. One is you could take a cast iron skillet full of sand or gravel, put it on top of your wood stove, warm up that sand, and then just take the rung and stick the end into the sand. So you don't actually need the whole rung to be dry. All you need is the very end to be super dry. So that's one way of just getting the end super dry. They built wood-fired kilns. Follansbee talks in the book that we've recommended a couple times here from Lost Art Press. He talks about in 1970, when his second class or something, they built this wood-fired kiln, and his job and the rest of the students' job. So they were camping out in this field. They all were tent camping in this field at Drew Langsner's place. And every hour they had an alarm clock that would go off. And whoever had the alarm clock would get up, feed the fire, and then set the alarm clock for another hour and put it next to the tent of the person who was going to get up the next day. And they just went in 1 hour shifts all night long.
This all sounds way too much like work. I'm not interested in this. So how are us city boys going to approximate this whole thing in this shop?
The city boys are going to go to the big box store, get some foam insulation, and create the world's simplest rung drying kiln ever. You could do it in your stove. Some people have said, prop open your stove and just turn it on to a really low temperature and do it that way.
Nope, that's not going to fly in my house. My wife's not into that.
Yeah.
No, we got to do this here.
Right.
So we went to Home Depot this morning and we bought really run-of-the-mill stuff. Tell me what we got at Home Depot.
This is just classic big box foam insulation. This is 2-inch. What we're going to do is put this together with spray adhesive. We got some dowels, some dowel rods. We got a simple clamp lamp like you would have in your shop, and a 40-watt incandescent bulb. That's It has to be an incandescent bulb because you need the heat, right? You can't get it, you can't use an LED. LED doesn't put out enough heat. And you also don't want a heat lamp because that puts out way too much heat. And that's it. That's basically all you need. We are going to use a thermostat, which you can get for $25 off of Amazon, that has a little temperature probe that you drop down in the kiln. You set the temperatures on it, and you just plug it into a power strip and plug your lamp into that, and it turns the lamp on and off depending on what the heat is.
Now, you've made this kiln before using a table saw, but we want to make it as easy as we can possibly make it for the home gamer. And what did we use to cut this with?
We just used a simple Japanese saw, Ryobi, I think.
A Ryoba, yeah.
Ryoba. And it worked great. I mean, it doesn't have a spine on it, so it goes through the foam nice and easy. I just held it, Rex did all the cutting. Super simple and easy to do.
And I've got a couple of tips. So it's a lot like sawing wood, except it's soft, obviously, so it's really easy to start. But that foam actually grabs the saw a lot. It's got a lot of friction. So I used my handy Paul Sellers rag in a can oil trick to lube up that blade in between each cut. We experimented with the fine crosscut teeth and the big rip teeth, and the crosscut teeth definitely worked much better. The rip teeth were much more likely to go off the line. And then because this foam is so soft, if you get a little bit off your line, you can just kind of nudge the blade with your finger a little bit. And you'll see me doing this a lot in the video. As I started to get off the line a little bit, I would just flex that blade very gently with my index finger and get it back on. And not only did we get straight cuts, but they're also nice and perpendicular. So when we go to put this together, we're not gonna have a gappy assembly. Even doing it just freehand sawing, it looks like we're gonna have a nice kiln.
Take the time to do it carefully and get these cuts nice and square and perpendicular, because it's gonna fit together a lot nicer if you do that. If your cuts are even just a little bit off, it's 2 inches thick, so it can be a couple millimeters one way if the blade is tilted. So just take the time, do it slow, do it right. And as long as you've got nice perpendicular cuts, it'll go together really clean. This clamp lamp is going to be what holds our light bulb. And we have to mount it in the bottom of our kiln because heat's going to rise. And so we want the heat source to be at the bottom, so it comes up and heats the rungs at the top of the kiln. So what we're going to do is figure out how to center this in this bottom piece and then cut the holes on the outside and the inside. It's this, as you can see right here, this is slightly slanted. So the hole on the inside is going to be slightly larger than the one on the outside. And then we're going to spray glue on that hole, stick this down in there, and probably flip it over and put some weights on it, and it'll seat right in that hole. There's just one critical thing to remember when you're doing this, is that the way this is set up, this is the back of the kiln right here, which is flush against this piece. The front of the kiln, the door to the kiln, has this inset on it. And that's to keep it, so we don't have to have a hinge or anything like that. It just fits in there. You want to go 2 inches in to get your square that you're going to center. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of foam, I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to just trace my line. Boom. All right. Then I'm going to take my ruler and just mark my center. And I'm going to do that on both sides because my hole is going to be different sizes from the inside to the outside.
Because that clamp lamp is cone shaped.
Correct.
So we can't just do a regular hole.
Right. So I'm going to flip it, take my piece. Again, just remember to make sure you're cognizant of your orientation. This side is the front, that side's the back. I'm going to mark this again, and then I'm just going to make another center hole or center mark. Okay.
Rob, we're going to glue the whole thing together now?
Correct.
You're going to take each piece out into the back room, spray on the adhesive, and then you're going to come back and put it together, and we're going to weigh it down with some weights, and that's going to clamp it up, right?
Correct. X is going to set that one up. I'm going to set this one up, Key is these ends just have to be flush. All right?
Good.
There. Now I'm going to take the bottom. Again, key piece is ends have to be flush. Okay.
Yep.
Good?
It's good.
All right. Real light pressure here. It's not like a piece of wood. It doesn't need a lot of pressure. And you don't want to have a lot of pressure because then you'll crush it. And you just want to make sure you're over the center of this piece of foam. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the inside racks in. But before we do that, I want to explain how this door works. The idea is to make this as simple as possible. No hinges, nothing fancy. This is going to fit by friction alone. All we did is cut this inset, glued it to this piece here. So essentially creating a giant rabbet. And this just fits in like that. And it's nice and tight. That way it's going to stay on when this thing is heated up. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill holes for the dowels that are going to go through the box and hold up our pieces inside. We're going to drill with a spade bit. Bit isn't that important. You just need something that's going to give you a decently clean hole. We're going to go 6 inches from the bottom because we want to be a little bit farther from our heat source on the bottom so we don't scorch the first set of rungs that we're going to put in here. And then we're going to go 4 inches up to make our second shelf.
And then we're just going to poke dowels through that. And that's going to make the hangers that are going to keep our rungs suspended. And so air can flow around them, right?
Exactly.
With the kiln built, it's time to start making some rungs. Oh, you guys might hear a little background noise. That's the air conditioning. There's no way we can work without AC, so apologies, but you're going to have to put up with that. Rob, it's time for us to make the rungs. What does that process look like?
It's very similar to what we were doing before when we were making the front posts. All we're going to do is we're going to use our chair stick. We're going to mark out a length, and we're going to cut it off. So these 2 lengths here, shorter, longer, are the final lengths of the chair rungs. This is the rough length of the front post, so we're just going to use that as a guide so we've got a little bit of extra when it comes time to finalize these things. So all I'm going to do is lay this on here and say, all right, there's my mark. Rex is going to cross-cut that. I'm going to do one here too. I'm going to hand it to Rex. We're probably going to lose the bottom part of that. I'll show you in a minute. It's too wavy, but the top is great. Perfect. So I'm going to hand Rex this one. He's going to cut that. Okay, just to show you guys, this is probably going to be our waist piece from the bottom, and if you can see, it's kind of wavy there at the bottom. So we might be able to get 1 or 2 rungs out of that, but this piece, on the other hand, is nice and straight, and we'll be able to get some good rivings out of that. Same thing here. We're a little bit wavy at the bottom. But this is a bigger piece, so we probably can still get some good rungs out of that. And this is just super straight and nice. And that's going to be a dream to rive. I got my gauge here, and I'm going to look and see 7/8 this way. It's about half. So I'm going to split this in half right here first. And then I'm going to see, I'm not sure if I can get 4 rungs out of this, but we're going to try. And this is a thin piece, so I'm going to be pretty gentle here and not beat it hard like we did on the other pieces. So I'm started, and I can just, okay. I can smash myself in the groin in the process. But you can see we got a nice straight piece there. That's nice straight grain. So we're probably only going to be able to get 1 rung out of that. So I'm going to break my rule, and I'm not going to do it in the center. I may need to use the riving brake. We'll see. Okay. Again, real gentle taps here. Don't wail away on it. So you can already see, Rex, because I'm not centered, this is running out. Okay?
Yep.
Now it's running out in the direction I want it to run out in, but I don't want it to run out completely to the end.
So the split is running in a direction, it's running away from what you want. That's running out.
It's a little hard to say, it's a little hard to see here because this piece is so thin, but this is actually coming this way towards the end, towards the side with less mass. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my riving brake, and we'll see if this works. It may or may not work. Yeah, it is working.
Tell me what the brake is doing.
So the brake is putting pressure on this end to try to drive the split down into the larger mass. And it's actually, again, it's hard to see because this is so small and I'm taking so little material off, but it is sort of working.
Looks like that's a candidate for hewing.
Yeah, we could hew this, or the only problem is I'm getting down to an area where I can't fit my fro inside my riving brake, so I can just do that. Now this would be easy to draw knife. We don't necessarily, I probably would not hew this because the chances of me, or Rex, even with his skills, taking off too much is a lot, and I can do this in 10 seconds with a draw knife. So there's our finished rough rung. That end of it is about exactly where we want to be. This end of it, you can see, is a little bit wide. Okay, Rex and I just rove up a bunch of billets that you can maybe see behind me. I think we have 24, 28, something like that. So we're going to show you an example of a good one first, an easy one, and then a ratty one, so that you can see how you can take something that looks kind of ratty and make it into something nice. So this is our nice one, and you can see Rex, the riving genius, just did a fantastic job getting that thing right on the money.
I'm going to give the wood a little credit for that. I don't think that was all me.
So there it is, 7/8 almost exactly. That's our rough size. So we don't need to do anything on these faces. All we're going to do is take this sapwood off the outside and then get it to 7/8 on the other face. This is sapwood, so it's not very easy to draw knife. Kind of rotten, doesn't split well. But I can be really aggressive because I got a lot of material here. Okay, now we're getting into the good wood, and it's so much easier. Watch this. Look at that. Shaving's just coming off, and I'm just going side to side.
So we're past the sapwood and into the heartwood now, and that's making a big difference.
Oh God, it's so much easier to work. So these are my good sides. I'm not going to touch those. I'm just going to get all the sapwood off this side and get a nice, straight, square face. And then I'm going to go to the other side and get my final width. So again, I'm getting off this junky sapwood. And now I'm starting to get down to the good stuff. And
I see you going like one edge, then the other edge, then the center, not trying to take the whole surface in one bite.
Right. So it's way easier. So I'm skewing it this way. I'm going corner, corner, center, corner, corner, center. I think I'm going to use this as my working edge. I'm a little high on this side, and I've got a bump right there. I'm going to come over here, just take a little bit off that, And remember, when I flip it, now I'm working on this edge here. So
now are you working a face perpendicular to your first face? Is that what's going on?
yes.
Okay.
I'm skewing my draw knife because I have to be, this is kind of, it's no longer rough work at this point. All right, probably good enough for rough work. Now, again, I'm not touching either side here, and I'm just going to take material off this side right here. The grain's a little bit wonky right there.
Pretty nice.
Okay. It's not gonna look like a machine-made piece, but that fits there, right? Doesn't quite fit here. So I'm gonna just bring down this whole surface another 1/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to flip it and keep flipping it side to side so I don't get too aggressive on one end. Okay. Bingo.
Rob's definitely got experience over on the shave horse, and he can make these pretty quickly, but if only one of us is making rungs, we're not going to get them done in time, and we've only got the one shave horse. So Rob had a great idea, which was for me to just come and make some of these rungs on the bench just using joiner's tools, because I'm really familiar with that. So here's just a piece of rough stock, and it wasn't very square after riving, so I used the hewing hatchet and the stump to get it a lot squarer and do that rough removal. And now I want to square this up and get it down to size using my 4-plane. It's the only tool I need. Let's start working. I'm working this face first because it's the most out of square, and the piece isn't going to sit on the bench when I turn it if I don't get this face fixed. And this green wood is it definitely takes a little getting used to. I might need a 4-plane with a wider mouth, but I have one, so maybe I'll get that out. Let's see. So that's a pretty flat face, but it's got a lot of twist. So let me adjust that. That's pretty flat, so that's a good beginning, and it eyeballs nicely. So now I've got one flat face, and I've got a gauge right here, and this corner of the gauge is knocked off to make it like a square. So I can use, this is the face I just did, I can use it to see if I'm square, and I can also use it to check my dimension. So this face is pretty good, and now I want to bring this face in, and I think that's going to be easy enough. Using the 4-plane is slower than the draw knife, but you also get flat faces a little more predictably. Like I wasn't even really paying attention, and that's flat. So trade-offs. Yep, totally getting there. That's actually surprisingly square. A little high right here. So let me bring that side down a little. And now I've got 2 perpendicular faces, which is great, here, and they're both nice and straight. So now I can work the other faces down. I only need 3/4 of an inch, and this is like way too much material here. So I'm gonna go hew this side a little. And that took off a bunch of material. It's gonna take way too long to plane that, but now I can plane it. Just about there. And then work on my last side. And this rung is straight and square, and it's a good size. And so with Rob on the shave horse and me on the bench and the foreplane, we have a prayer of getting these done in time. Okay, Rob, what's the last step with these rungs,
Okay.
at least for now?
Very last step is to octagonalize these so it's easier to round them once they're dried and once you have the tenons on with the spoke shave. So all you're doing is hogging off some material on the corners so that you don't have to take off so much material with the spoke shave. You're going to notice that this is exactly like what we did with the front posts. So we're going to take a pencil, and in order to make sure everything is even, we're just going to make some random marks across these faces. The purpose of these marks is so that as we come down with as we take this corner off, it's going to let us know very quickly and easily whether it's even on both sides and whether the remaining mark that's left is the same going up the rung. So you don't want a really wide mark here and a really narrow one here. You want the marks to be the same width all the way up, and you want them to be even from side to side. Okay, so then I just rotate it, and you can see this is the nice thing about having the notch and about having the shaving horse is it's really easy to switch out your work holding. And you can see that the marks are even width all the way up, and they're about the same from one face to the next. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. All we're doing here is getting it close so we don't have to take off so much material once we start using the spoke shave. And then I'm going to flip it. And now all I have to do is take my same line and extend it. Okay, so you can see that these faces and these are about the same width. And that took me 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe.
Tops.
Yeah. So this is going to be a lot easier to round out completely once it's bone dry.
All right, so we don't have time today to octagonalize and finish all these rungs because we need how many?
Rough 24.
We need 24 rungs. Yeah, so we don't have time to do all that today. So we wanted to wrap up by showing you what we are going to do. So Rob, we've got one rung that's already octagonalized, and we've got to do that to all the rest of them. And then this is the kiln that we built earlier in the video. And here's the door that we made, and it closes just with friction. It's a brilliant design, just like that. And Rob, can you tell everybody what we did to finish the kiln so it'll actually be at the right temperature?
So we got the most important thing here is a 40-watt incandescent bulb. It has to be an incandescent bulb. Can't be fluorescent. It can't be, what are those things?
LED.
LED. You want it to produce heat. And these days, people don't want bulbs to produce heat because it's waste. They want light. But we want heat. So it has to be an incandescent bulb. They don't usually make them in full-size bulbs. They're smaller, sort of long.
This one's a
bulbs.
long, here, I can take it.
Yeah, Rex will show you. But we found this at Home Depot. I think you guys saw it in the last video. So they're out there, and they're not that hard to find.
So yeah, this was at Depot. Everything was at Depot except the thermostat.
Exactly.
Even the metal light holder
Yep.
and the dowels, the foam, it was all just Depot stuff. So anybody can do this, and then we'll put a link in the description to the thermostat. Why don't you explain how that part works?
So the thermostat is so that you don't burn your shop down and you don't burn your rungs.
Thumbs up.
Burning the shop down is bad. And the idea is these thermostats are used for all kinds of different stuff. You could home brewing, for instance, but basically all you do is you set a lower temperature and an upper temperature. So the lower temperature should be 120. The upper one, I set mine at 125. You could set it at 130. And the thermostat plugs into, so the light, the heat source, plugs into a plug in the thermostat, and then the thermostat, that plug plugs into your power strip or extension cord
in this case.
We'll show you. I think Rex has video. And so basically what it does is when it gets to the higher heat, it shuts off, and then your box cools down. It's got a probe on the inside that's a thermometer.
And
your
what
box
we did is
cools
we
down.
drilled a hole in the back, dropped that in, and taped it so it'll stay in place.
Right. And then the temperature will drop. The thermostat will turn the heat back on until it rises to the whatever upper limit you set, and it just bounces back and forth between those things, and it never gets too hot and it never gets too cold. And you don't have to worry about burning your shop down or scorching your material.
And it's especially important for me because I don't have a home shop. I'm not here at night. And so if I'm going to leave something like this going, it's got to be controlled, because burning this shop down is one of my biggest nightmares. Yeah. That would be a real problem. I also have mine sitting, my kiln here, sitting on an inexpensive Harbor Freight welding table. So there's no wood around it anywhere. So even if something got going, it's sitting on something that's not flammable, which is really important. So just because of time constraints, we didn't finish making all the rungs. We didn't octagonalize all the rungs. I'm going to give Rob some wood to take with him. I'm going to keep some of it, and on our own, we're going to finish making the rungs. Then we'll get back together in between videos and we'll load the kiln up. So the next time you see us, we'll be able to crack this kiln open and take the dried rungs out and show you what happens after that. So today we did a good job of showing you how to build the kiln and how to make the rungs, how to octagonalize them. We'll link to everything down in the description. If you'd like to support these videos, we have a set of plans for this kiln. It's basically Rob's design, and graciously he allowed us to make plans for them. They're only a couple of bucks. We also have plans for the shave horse you saw us using today, and the 2 saw benches, which I found really helpful, having low benches to hold tools during this. Yep. I would not do green woodworking without some sort of low bench or table. The saw benches are good for that. We'll link to all of that stuff down in the description. For those of you who are enjoying this series, thank you. We really appreciate having people watch while we do this very long, sort of drawn-out process that I've wanted to do for years. And it was just lucky that I met Rob and he had already done it. So thanks for coming along with us. We have several more videos before we have a chair. So stick with us. Thanks very much. See you next time.